Okay, now that we've got SketchUp 2018 loaded, let's just take a look at the interface here. On the main screen, we have our horizon line, sky, ground. Every year, SketchUp uses one of their staff members and puts them in the model. She's just there to kind of give you a start point reference as far as scaling goes. On our screen here, we also have our axis, which is our blue, green, and red. Blue is our z-axis, red is our x-axis, and green is our y-axis. Off this other direction here, you'll see there's also red, but it's dotted line, green dotted line, and blue dotted line. This is our world 000 coordinates, and this just shows that this is in what you can call negative space. This would be positive space. The only reason why you need to know that is if when you're doing manual entries, if you're just going positive or negative values, that's all. Up in the top here, we have our file toolbar. This is our main toolbar. And off on the side here, we have our trays, which we'll cover in just a quick second. There's an information bar down here. So if you select things, this will change according to what you have selected. And we have a measurement box down here, which we will use shortly. Okay, the toolbar that we have up here doesn't have the list that we're looking for. So if we go up here to View, Toolbars, and we're just going to switch from this Getting Started toolbar, which is this up here, deselect that and select the large tool set. For now, I'll leave this on large icons, but I like to leave this small icons. It takes up a little bit less space. We'll leave it on large for now. The other thing we're going to change is in the side tool tray, but for our designing of stages, most of these things you won't need to use. When we start designing, if you wanted to make your own wall, for instance, or these become more prevalent. The only ones that you really need to be familiar with at the beginning stage is literally just the instructor. The instructor will give you variable topics based on what you're doing or what you have selected. So right now, in the left toolbar here, I have the select tool selected, and so this information tells me things that I can do with that. Just as an example, if I left click and drag over top of half of this person and let go, it doesn't select. I have to basically make sure she's completely in the selection box. You left click away from that person to deselect, by the way. So that was from the top left. If I go from the bottom right and go up, I just have to have only a portion of her selected. So you can see left down is a solid box, but if I go from the right hand up, it's a dotted line. And that will change if we switch to line tool, for instance. It gives you information about what you can do. I highly recommend in a default world like this, just play around with it, paying attention to this. This will help you a lot. So now that you kind of know how to select objects, let's look at moving the camera around. Assuming you're using a 3-button mouse, our left mouse button is used to select and deselect. So clicking on somebody and selects it. If you click off of that person or object, I should say, it deselects. If you press the right mouse button, it will bring up a menu, very similar to other programs. So in camera space, we have the ability to pan, orbit, and zoom. Zooming is if you use your wheel mouse in, out, so scrolling changes your zoom perspective. It also changes if I move wherever you're pointed is where the camera will zoom to. The next thing we're going to do is orbiting. So if I want to look around this object, I hold down the middle button and it turns into this picture of an axis with a red and green arrow around it. So if I just move the mouse left and right, it will rotate my origin. The third thing that we can do is panning. If you hold down the shift key while you press the middle button, so that's shift middle button pressed down, will allow us to drag the seen around with us. You can keep the shift button held down while you left click and left click on, left click off will allow you to move distances. So if you use a combination of zooming, orbiting, and panning, if you can get familiar with that, it goes a long way in your stage designs because you'll be using it a lot.